Is it possible to include the recitation of other belief system and spiritual application, modifying the mantras to suit individual need, such as Islamic, Jewish, Christian mantras to recite, or must it be these specific sounding words?
You can answer both ways. And there is a fundamental being that's about sound, like Om, Amen, Ameen, Om. There's something about that sound inherent that occurs in all wisdom traditions and all languages. So in that essential essence, no, you don't need to know. It's the language or the way by which the sound is made or what it even means is irrelevant to opening one's heart and letting sound come through the organism.
Right.
And it opens to devotion and connection to nature. And there's an inherent logic and meaning within that experience itself. And that's really what we use the mantras or the chanting or even prayer to get to. Just a contact with the awe underneath it all.
Well, but if you notice, why am I asking these questions? Because I want to see if it's possible for those that are a little bit more rigid in their belief system, a little bit narrow-minded, that might want to explore the yogic path, but feel a little bit intimidated by the fact that they might be following a whole complete belief system or faith that is outside their own. Is it possible to unify it in a way that they would feel comfortable that they can still bring their own belief system into the yogic life? And that's why I was wondering if it's possible to change the mantras in such a way so they can feel part. They can basically combine the two. Is it possible to combine the two?
Well, I think it is.
Right.
I think that you can and do exactly as you said. Because, and what allows you to do it is because you're related and connected to the people that you're translating this experience. And you really have a sense of the listening that they have for experiences. So because of your own background and your own experience, you're able to do that. And yes, you can and are and probably should do that. One thing I want to say, though, is behind that, I personally would not want to participate in a process whereby someone needs, where their faith in their own belief system is challenged.
Right.
I don't believe that it's a compassionate human endeavor to attempt to pull one's faith out from under one.
Yeah.
So I'm only interested in doing it if it does in fact enhance and augment one's faith in the universal source.
No, I totally agree with you, and I've seen that. I've seen the when you teach and stuff. But this is just for those that automatically their brain shuts down and says, oh well, look, he's teaching another faith. Do you know what I mean? They might not have the understanding or awareness to see that you're actually enlightening their faith more. So I'm just trying to make it clear that in fact it is open to everything, it is a unifying way of life. Okay, so together for me. Now, as I have previously stated, that my higher self has chosen this particular adventure and experience to be the very first stepping stone in my journey, which is the social psychology experiment, namely the human balance experiment. From the name of the experiment itself, I believe from what I have experienced and witnessed so far, that the yogic philosophy is to teach such a balance and to connect on such a level. Yet how could this first experience benefit the rest of my journey on a structural level? Meaning, how will it shape and influence my future experiences? How will it enrich these experiences, set a standard of communication between mind, body and soul? In your opinion?
The yoga experience is all about the learning process, about learning how to learn from our own experience. And in the inquiry of yoga, that's exactly what you're doing. We're not that efficient at really learning from our experience, or we wouldn't keep recreating the same patterns and self-defeating habits and behaviors. So what is it about slowing down and starting to learn at a deeper level from one's experience? And I believe that the fundamental things that this course intends is to enable people to begin learning from their own experience, to slow down and be efficient learners, and also internally at the same time to have an inner map where these experiences we're learning from start to fill out a bigger sense of self, a more dimensional internal life. And it's not for any other purpose other than to unfold and differentiate one's consciousness and one's beingness. So all the experiences that come your way by your own choice and by your own intuition, are opportunities then to keep deepening the self-learning, self-actualizing, self-awakening process. And then the last part is we're also simultaneously engaged in communicating with others. We're not just having an experience and digesting it within our own isolated world. We're immediately turning around and sharing it with somebody in our own language and in our own time. So not only do you have a way to learn from your own experience, you also simultaneously have a way to be with people as they're learning from their experience as well. And it's very powerful.
So it is.
You'll be a change agent in the communities you walk into in terms of really understanding within yourself what experiential learning is all about. The necessity of it for any real change to occur.
So actually, then it's actually an excellent stepping stone for the first experience to expand my learning process in the next 2 years. By starting this journey, I've committed myself to being a child again. Newborn, full of questions and ready to learn and explore the world. As such, I hope to start with a new slate of experiences, independent completely from everything learned and experienced from the past. In doing so, as the journey began with experience in the philosophy of yoga, in your now that after I finish this journey and I go on to the next one and onto the next one, it will, from what you've just said, it will basically add by allowing me to be more open to the experiences, by allowing me to be very receptive and to experience it in a way that otherwise might have been a bit more chaotic if it was. But what do you think of the child state, approaching it from a child state, approaching it from anything is possible and here I am going to experience everything? How would that come together with yoga? How does that, do you see what I mean?
Yes,
blossom?
Well, it's, the metaphor of returning to the eternal blank tablet, where we're unconditioned, beneath even our culture, our families, our personalities, our egos, our identity. It is implicit in all the major wisdom traditions, the idea of dissolving the ego and personality in that way, and returning to some original state of purity of consciousness. So I think the metaphor is very powerful, but I think it's incomplete.
Right.
I think along with the eternal child needs also to become, there needs to be the archetype of the responsible parent.
Right.
And the relationship between the responsible parent and the eternal child is that I will never abandon you. No matter what arises in your inquiry or your journey, I am not going to judge or shame you, and we're speaking to our inner self for the natural curiosity and intuition that unfolds. So that's a mantra I say to myself every day. I will not abandon you. I'm not going to run away. I don't care what comes up. Nothing will cause me to abandon my inner self. And I do abandon my inner self. It feels terrible sometimes. And then I return and I see what I've done. And I need to make peace. Because if there's an inner pure child, there also needs to be a protective, responsible parent who's there monitoring the multidimensional needs of a whole person, of which the inner child is absolutely essential. Without it, it's a dull and boring and deadly life.
Yeah.
So I admire your choice of images and metaphors. And I think you're also creating a scaffolding or a structure to be a good parent.
Oh, absolutely. I've left the last 34 years of my life, which was Zsena the child, and I've entered into Zsena the woman. But I have not left the child behind. I've just left the ego child behind, and I've entered with the child, the innocent, to start once again with the eyes of a child, the innocent, to experience life again, but now from an adult perspective, from a woman's perspective. And I said it's contradictory in terms, but I feel more fulfilled that way. I feel like I've done a very positive step, a step that was necessary for my growth. And by allowing that, I listened to my higher self, and my higher self first thing chose this place. And I'm so pleased that I listened, because I came here and I found myself to be exactly where I want to be, exactly the first experience I wanted to have. So the entire 2 years will be to experiment with the different belief systems from different cultures, and then observe or note the experience through the mind, body and soul, in the hope that I reach new levels of awareness that may give birth to the start of human evolution, whether mentally, spiritually or physically. Yet, ultimately, my fundamental principle or theory based on the mental state of a child, that the possibilities are infinite, for everything is possible, mind over matter. Therefore, as such, I believe that the human being is a miraculous entity that can exhibit supernatural abilities, though the reason though the reason that we don't is due to the lack of awareness and mental focus. Does the yogi philosophy allow for the parameters of such a theory?